I've said it before and I'll say it again. TicWatch makes some of the best smartwatches on the market. Today, we're going to check out the brand new TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. Sabaha everybody and welcome back to the channel. TicWatch has a very unique experience when it comes to smartwatches. They feature dual displays and some really nice upgrades from the original series that we've seen before. This is TK and this is the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. And here we have it, the brand new TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. Now the title may be long. Essentially, this is the latest edition smartwatch from Mobvoi that features the dual display technology that we've seen before, also still powered by Wear OS by Google. Now, currently we don't have Wear OS 3.0. That's going to be coming up as a later update. And we know based on the two watches that were released earlier this year, like the TicWatch 3 Pro that was released by Mobvoi, is that they are going to be receiving Wear OS 3.0 at some point, hopefully later this year or maybe early next year. But overall, the experience that we're getting here is a pretty much tried and true solid experience that Mobvoi has refined over the years with the different iterations that they've released. But the benefit here is that this is literally the best. So the Ultra is going to be featuring a couple of new things. We're looking at the same processor as the Pro 3. That's the Qualcomm Snapdragon 4100 platform with the assisted. So there's a co-processor built in by Mobvoi. So it's going to be basically similar to the 4100 Plus, although it is based on the 4100 platform with the co-processor. A military 810G capability here for protection, so if you bang this thing, it's not going to get damaged at all. Up to 72 hours of usage with the standard mode, and of course up to 45 days in essential mode, and we'll talk about those. Some new improvements in that area. 20 plus professional workout mode, of course, all the way up to swimming with IP68 water. And it is featuring the Google Assistant, so it is an Android Wear watch that features Google Assistant. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is by the time we get over to the Samsung watch, which we're going to be talking about the Watch 4, that's one of the things Samsung changed there. And one of course the new features that they're bringing here is the irregular heartbeat and the atrial fibrillation detection, and of course fatigue assessment. Those are going to be brand new and unique to the Ultra pretty much. Built-in compass and GPS. This is a GPS model, so I'm not using the LTE. Dual display with customized color backlight. That's one of the brand new features that they added over to the essential mode. High density heart rate, stress and sleep tracking. Google Pay, of course, with NFC support, and up to 1,000 plus watch faces, and of course all of the other options we can get from the Google Play Store. And as far as the packaging, it's pretty simple. Safety product information, of course, charger, magnetically 2-pin connector, pretty much standard for the last few generations of TicWatches, and it is connected with USB Type A, works with almost anything, and of course, last but not least, is the watch itself. Now, first thing we'll talk about is obviously the construction and the material that we have here. Now, let's go ahead and compare it real quick to what we saw earlier in this year. This is the TicWatch Pro 3, this is the Pro 3 Ultra, so we're just going to call this the Pro 3 and then the Ultra over here. You'll notice the design is very similar. The buttons changed a little bit overall. You also notice that the material around the actual bezel did change a little bit. Overall, same fitting size as far as the bands themselves, same replaceable bands, same placement for the speakers, same placement for the microphone on the right side, and of course with the arrows. On the bottom, for the most part, they look very similar. Again, same pogo pin connector for charging, and of course the sensors that we have at the bottom. Overall, the functionality, since both of these are GPSs, are going to be very similar. 477 milliampere is powering this with the dual display that we have here. So that's one of the main benefits here. The only thing I would probably say is that even though this is not a 4100 Plus, both these processors are running at a much higher clock speed than what the standard 4100 Plus is. That runs at 1.7 gigahertz. These are actually overclocked to run at 2 gigahertz with the always-on display, which is actually what's powering the secondary display as always-on connection. So when you're running the device in more of an essential mode, like this one, this is running on the co-processor and not on the main processor. Helps us save battery and almost definitely gets us around that 72-hour worth of usage. Now, when we put it against the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4, this is the classic edition. You'll notice there's obviously a few differences, but overall the aesthetics are pretty similar there. Samsung did change the band size where Mobvoi decided to stick with theirs. And although both of them are running Android Wear in a certain version, this is Wear 3, and of course this is the current generation Wear 2, the biggest difference is that only the Mobvoi features the Assistant as an actual functional option. So if I swipe from the left, I have access to the Google Assistant. On smartwatches from Samsung, although we are running Android and we're back to that, we're still not able to use that. Only Bixby is the assistant available here. So that's one thing that actually may keep you working with one system over the other. You notice right there, once I said the name, it recognized it and it started to launch it. Now, as far as on the back, we have obviously an array of sensors. On the Watch 4 here from Samsung, it is basically more like a wireless charging. You're able to charge it also from your Samsung phone. But overall here, this is pretty much standard. The experience is very similar. Both have speakerphone and microphones. Both have two buttons configured to use into the ecosystem that they're in. And one of the other things with the actual smartwatch here that does not have here on the TicWatches, the ability of moving the digital crown, and that it enables us to actually move through the UI. We're still able to swipe and get access to different information. Now, on the one of the other differences in the UI elements, if we swipe up from both sides, here we have the app drawer. On the left side, we have the notification panel. But as far as the watch here, if I swipe to the left, I have access to the notification panel. Swiping down from the top gives us access to the toggles. Both of these are connected via Bluetooth right now to the same phone, although the Watch 4 that I have here also does feature LTE. No word yet from Mobvoi. This is going to be a release later with an LTE model, although they typically do provide options like that. And of course, you do need to download the Mobvoi application to be able to get the full benefit of this. It is available on both Android and on iOS, and you're able to customize it and just log in and set up all your information. Fitness report, you can see it in here. You can obviously see the mental fatigue and energy level, of course, step counting and all of the different options. It's still early in the morning here. This is why it's so low. And of course, it has tracking of my sleep from last night, up to 7 hours and 28 minutes of sleep, oxygen level, and of course, resting heart rate. Stress level hasn't been measured yet today, but definitely will be really nice. Also, we do have the ability of measuring the ambient noise level in the area. I ended up running a measurement this morning just to be able to get some numbers for us here. Now, one thing to also keep in mind is that there's different generations of this. I do have the TicWatch Pro 3 GPS that's connected. This is the one I've been using. Honestly, the way it ended up being for me this year, I started my year with the TicWatch Pro 3. I've been using it the whole time. Then ended up switching over to the Classic 4 or the Watch 4 from Samsung. And of course, about a few weeks ago, I went ahead and switched over to the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra. One of the other things that we can do here is access the audio recordings directly that we get out of the watch. So if you ever want to do a voice memo, you're able to put it straight on the watch, record it, and it transfers automatically to your phone. And you're also even able to transcribe it if it's a long message that you want to be able to play.
This is a test of the voice memo on the TicWatch 3 Ultra. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Now, as you could hear there, the audio is definitely very nice. I was actually pretty close to the watch itself, but you're able to take really nice voice memos straight on your watch. And again, the beauty of it is it actually translates directly into the watch. And you're able to do this also with even their smart recorder that they released earlier this year. Other than that, I think overall the information is pretty straightforward, all the health information that you want to be able to track. Under account, you're able to see some of your additional options. You're also able to share your health and tracking fitness with other Mobvoi users. And that was something that they introduced earlier in the year with the TicWatch Pro 3. So it's very nice. And if you have friends and family that you want to be able to do kind of like tracking, you can jump in there to TicCare. Now, obviously, I'm following myself, but the benefit here essentially is that you can actually jump in and then actually see the information. You can actually follow and have other people follow you that are in the same ecosystem. And then of course, real easy access to voice memos. Now you'll notice here is that we are able to configure this or actually pair it to our smartphone using the Android Wear app. And that's something that we're not able to do here with the Samsung Watch. You do need to use the Samsung app, and it is proprietary to that. So again, Samsung incorporated Android as the ecosystem or the base of what they're running here, which essentially is a skinned version of Android Wear, very similar to the way Tizen was running on Samsung watches. Because the experience that you're getting here very much looks like, feels like, and essentially still runs as if it's running Tizen. And that's one of the main reasons we're actually able to run applications like this, the Wear for Tesla. This is my favorite application to control my car, and it definitely works perfectly great. Now I have it installed here on the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, but that's one of the things that you want to keep in mind. Samsung's watches are definitely very nice. They are incorporating Android, but they're not fully vested into the Android ecosystem yet, as we still have a lot of the remnants as what we've seen before. Now, one thing I'll keep in mind here, this is where you'll be able to customize your tiles, and of course you can actually add additional ones, and there's no more limit. We used to have a 5-tile limit, but that's no longer there. We can definitely go in here and see the additional watch faces that we're able to get. And one of the things I wanted to share with you guys real quick, under the Mobvoi application itself, you're also able to jump into their app store for watch faces, and they have a very large selection. Now, as far as the ecosystem, pretty much straightforward. Google Assistant on the left, notifications on the bottom, and then of course the toggles at the top. And one of the main benefits here is I wanted to share with you guys real quick is that I show that I'm actually still running the battery here for up to 3 days almost. And I'm using this with the, obviously it's 577 milliampere battery that we have here. I do have essential mode set to kick in at about 5%, so if that kicks in, we'll be able to see it. We have the step counter, the heart monitoring, and of course calories burnt. We're able to change the watches, of course, very easily. Tic Health is actually very easy to access directly from the main page. You can just make it as a secondary tile. And of course, we can see here the high intensity measurement. Haven't done exercise yet. Heart rate, which is what's been measuring for the last few hours. And of course, here's the oxygen saturation, which was also measured a couple hours ago. And of course, the tracking for this week's information. Activities for as far as sleep, you're able to track that. And all of these are basically interfacing toggles. So you can actually go in here and interface with them. Under the heart rate, you can initiate the heart rate tab, or you can go into the Tic Heart application. Now you'll notice right there it's measuring the information, shows the heart rate information. Now, one thing to keep in mind is every single tab that you're seeing here is actually accessible by means you can actually tap it and it'll take you straight into the appropriate app. This is more kind of like an aggregate, think of it as an aggregate area to get all the information. So that was the Tick Heart, to be able to jump into it, see all the different information. And if you're done with it, you can pretty much swipe back and you can go to the next one. As I showed you guys before, the Wear for Tesla app has its own tile. I actually went ahead and added it. Of course, we have the weather app. This tile enables us to actually jump straight into the Tick Exercise app, or you can actually keep the customization. Out of the box, it's configured to run with the bottom button. You are able to reconfigure this button very nicely. And of course, you can add different tiles and all the other options that you want, and it actually just makes everything work perfectly. Now, the bottom button is configured to run with the Tick Exercise, but if you press and hold the bottom button for a little bit, you'll get a few other options here. We have the speaker draining mechanism. This enables us to actually drain or emit a sound in the speaker whenever you get out of the pool to clean and make sure that there's no water residue sitting in there and damaging the water seal that they have in there for the IP68 rating. Essential mode kicks it up directly into essential mode if you want to force turn it on, start, restart, power off, and of course, customizing the power button gives us, or that bottom button, so you can change it. Again, right now it's configured to be Tick Exercise, and you can change it to be whichever one you want. If we press and hold on the top button here, pretty much it just initializes the assistant, so you don't have to use the command, but although you do have the option of turning it on or swiping straight from the left side, and that gives you access to it. Pretty much straightforward there. Obviously at the top we have Google Pay, we have Do Not Disturb, Movie Mode, Find My Watch, and Airplane Mode. Of course, we are able to jump into the setting, customize the display, the sound, the functionalities, all the different things, connectivity, set up Wi-Fi here, personalization. Now, one thing I will say this much, it does actually run a couple of things. This is running the Mobvoi launcher out of the box. If you want to customize it and use it in the original Android Wear experience, the way you're used to seeing on other watches, it's very much straightforward. You click it, and then you'll notice here that the app drawer changes and it goes back into more of that carousel experience that we've seen. The notification panel doesn't change much, and Google Assistant and the tiles don't, but overall the experience, that's pretty much what you're getting, is the launcher itself changes. So you're able to switch it on and off directly within personalization and jump into the Mobvoi launcher. The benefit of having 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of internal storage is that this watch runs smooth, fast, and very efficiently. Now, one of the other things that we've covered here is obviously the new heart tracking information, but under Essential mode, we now have the ability of actually customizing the back color whenever we're using the Essential mode. Now, at the beginning of the video, I showed that to you guys real quick, but you're able to customize it and change it to whichever one you want. One thing to keep in mind though is if you have tilt to wake, unfortunately that feature does not work. You do need to disable that for it to stay on in that mode for us to see. An example would be here. Right now it basically turns on. If I just tilt it a little bit, you'll notice it is a blue color. And if I went ahead and switched it over to purple, you'll notice right there that the purple color comes up and it looks really nice. You can customize it and make sure that it works with you. And keep in mind that the watch itself gets its long battery life because it's using the coprocessor to power the secondary display, and the fact that it has the secondary display to make sure that we're not using the full color display all the time, every time we want to basically just do a quick glance at the watch, see what our step count is, because you're getting a lot of information with the watch. And one of the reasons is because you're able to get so much information here. So if you just want to get the time, and again, the step counter, and of course with the battery level, and of course the date, all of that information is there. And if you just tilt to wait and press the button, you're able to interact with the full color. You do have the ability of doing tilt to wake as well as an always on display. Now the watch will inform you that if you try to use always on display, it is going to drain the battery a little bit faster. But here you are. Basically, this is the always on display version of this watch. So if let's go ahead and we just go home. This is the smartwatch, or the watch face that I'm using right now. If I go to basically here, this is what it is on always on display. Still easy to tell the time, but again, it just helps us have that experience. Jump into the display section, and of course, either turn on or turn off always on display, adjust the brightness, change the watch face. All of those things are very easy. Of course, press and holding here is very simple. We can switch between all the different preloaded ones, or of course, we can add all the ones. This one is the one that came out of the box with it, and of course, looks really nice. I personally like this option here. This is the universe, and it gives me all the information with a nice little color option. Mobvoi's been focusing on a couple of things for the last few iterations of watches. First and foremost is long battery life. The ability of going up to 3 days with a full charge. But again, the battery that we have here is one of the largest batteries that we have on a smartwatch to date. The fact that we marry that with the dual display functionalities that we have here, the ability of getting that extended longer battery life than typical smartwatches is very nice. The ability of going all the way up to 45 days or 30 to 45 days with Essential mode, that's actually also something that you want to keep in mind. You have the ability of turning on Essential mode that essentially disables the color display and uses the external display. Now that one is running on the coprocessor, and that gives you the ability of going for the really extended long battery life. Coincidentally, if my watch battery does drop around 5%, essential mode does kick in. So this gives me that extra stamina to be able to be aware that my watch is not going to totally die. Now, unfortunately, no new notifications are going to be coming in here, and most of Android Wear functionality gets disabled, but the watch doesn't disable itself, meaning it's not just going to be not working. You have the ability of turning on essential mode whenever you want by just pressing the bottom button and activating the secondary menu and then turning it on from there. And that's something to keep in mind that very much only TicWatch to date offers us that opportunity or that capability on a smartwatch. So overall, what I'll probably say is the ability of customizing the backlit or the external display background is actually very nice. It makes it a little bit more customizable. Not to say that it is boring, but it's more about something to make things more unique to you. So I feel like that's a very nice feature. The ability of having the additional heart tracking and the extended health tracking is actually very nice as well. The brand new constructions, a little bit of minor updates from what we saw earlier in the year, makes this into more of an upgrade to earlier generations of TicWatch Pros. And that means anybody that picked up the Pro 3 or the E3 earlier this year are probably not going to be looking to upgrade to the Ultra right now. For the most part, a lot of the functionalities we got with those are going to be running very nicely. If somebody at the end of 2021 is looking to pick up a new smartwatch to augment their experience, to make it so that we're not very dependent on our devices, I feel like what we get here is some of the best experiences available. The dual display with a long battery life, the functionalities with the 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of internal storage. You're, by the way, able to basically pair your earbuds into this and listen to music straight off the watch. We have access now to YouTube Music and Google Maps, as well as Spotify to be able to play music off of this. Wear 3.0 will obviously bring with it a lot more optimizations, better performance, and all of that. Once we have that, I'll definitely make an updated video for you guys to showcase how does Mobvoi, how did they incorporate that into their smartwatches. We know pretty much anything released in 2021 from Mobvoi is going to be covered and upgraded to Wear 3.0. The timing, unfortunately, is not available yet. So do I recommend the smartwatch? Absolutely, for somebody that's looking to upgrade to a smartwatch from anything earlier in, let's say, 2020, 2019, or 2018. This is definitely going to give you not only a much better UI experience, a faster UI experience, a longer battery life, a lot more functionalities, better health tracking, longer battery life, because we do have a bigger battery life than some of the other options on the market. So when it comes down to comparing it, is should you go with, let's say, a TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, or should you go with the Classic 4 from Samsung? At the end of the day, both of them are running Android Wear. That's true. Different versions of it, and at some point they're both going to be running the same thing. But it is such a heavily skinned experience on both of these watches. It's very much like a smartphone, right? You get Android as an AOSP base, but then you have the Android skin on top of it, be it One UI or whichever one. And at that point, it's hard to tell what runs in the background. And that's pretty much the experience on the Galaxy Watch 4. Although it's running Wear 3.0, it's very hard to tell that it is running Android Wear, with the exception of the Google Play Store that you're able to access, and of course installing Android applications there. So that's one of the main benefits. And of course, we don't have the assistant. We do have Samsung Pay, which pretty much is the same as Google Pay, because there's no longer MST functionality, so both smartwatches are going to give you the same. You are going to get a longer battery life with the TicWatch Pro 3, as well as the assistant, and a closer to stock Android Wear experience, since Mobvoi doesn't really skin too much. They really focus on giving you the best experience, and they did basically change the app drawer mostly to make it easier for one-handed, so you can actually have more apps on the screen as opposed to having to scroll through the entire UI. But it's going to come down to personal preference and ecosystems. If you like Samsung and you're pretty much happy to use Samsung on your device, it's just going to work the way you want it. I feel like I said, TicWatch for me, it gives me the options that I like and the things that I've always come to appreciate from them. That dual display is much more functional for me. And of course, the ability of integrating and having everything set up to the way I want it just works the best way. Both of these watches are definitely going to be great options for you if you decide to pick one up for yourself and upgrade your experience. Thank you very much for the support. Let me know what you guys think of the brand new TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra. I know it's a long title, but definitely bringing in some new features to help keep Android Wear going. Even though we're not running on the latest version, it still feels very snappy and almost snappier than what we see with Wear 3.0 on the Galaxy Watch. This is TK. Thank you very much for the support. I'll see you in the next video.